I went from living like monks, living out back of the trunk, to pockets of fat with the monks, pockets of fat like the clubs. Now I am living like Trump. Now I am living like Trump. Mimosas and mimosas, mimosas and mimosas, mimosas and mimosas, the Morris Costa Nostra. Pulling up in Testarossa, we charging the debt, discharging the debt, discharging the debt, we charging the jet. Swipers on deck, ciphers on deck, ciphers on deck, wipers on deck, wipers on deck. My life is on check, my life is on check, my life is on tubes, my life is a Jew, my life is on you. My wife is on two, my wife is on two. I'm going for three, you know it is me. Red is the pillar, the jet is my pillar.
Peace, family. Welcome to another episode Underground Railroad Productions. This is your host, Brother Rich. I'm back with the requested, highly requested Ayanna. Introduce yourself once again to the people.
Hi, everyone. Peace, love, and light. Ayanna.
All right. So, the last video you did, the people definitely appreciated what you brought to the table, your commentary, your thoughts, your energy. Some people said you reminded them of Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, wow. which is a high honor. So I said I gotta reach out to the sister. I gotta get the sister on the platform. I definitely want some more female, feminine energy on the platform. There's a lot of females watch this this program. Mm-hmm. A lot. So the movie Wonder Woman just came out.
Yeah.
I often talk with Supernova, Red Pill, Blue Pill about being inspired, being great, being a black man in America, and using whatever we got to feel inspired and to accomplish what we need to accomplish. We often have to be alchemists. That's what me and Red Pill and Supernova and others we talk about. And what I mean by that is we take, whether it's negative or positive, we just got to take it and run with it. Mm-hmm. And just, like if you grow up in the projects, you got to use that as inspiration. Like, I got to get out of here. So I'm wondering, as a black woman, because this movie Wonder Woman just came out, It was at the top of the box office. It raked in over $200 million over the weekend. Of course, there was complaints from the lack of black cast, the lack of black females in there. So that's something we could talk about later, trying to be inspired by watching white women on the screen. So we'll talk about that a little later. But what I want to ask you just in general to start out with is, what do you use to get inspired in America? In a country where a lot of sisters don't want to wear their natural hair. In a country where there's some sisters out here that's bleaching their skin. In a country where the men that we watch on television, the celebrities, they often go to other races once they become successful and they get what a lot of people call their trophy wives. What do you use as an inspiration to be a Wonder Woman?
So the idea of Wonder Woman in general is a really interesting idea. I think for a lot of women, the idea of Wonder Woman being a kind of superior, iconic power and still having a level of allure and still kind of being able to conspicuously pull out her power at her own will when it's needed, depending on the circumstance, I think is something that just as a woman, a lot of women can relate to. I think in terms of inspiration, when you think about inspiration, people tend to externalize the idea of inspiration. I think just spiritually, inspiration should come from within. It's about having your own intuition, having your own inner knowledge, having your own self-responsibility and connection to spirituality. I haven't seen the movie Wonder Woman yet, but I do know the story because it's a kind of legendary comic.
Did you watch it growing up?
I did. So I did, well, not really growing up. I saw the repeats when I was little.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with that. And I always kind of thought that Wonder Woman was a black woman, like when I saw her. And I remember hearing somewhere that Wonder Woman was a black woman. But when I researched, the original comic in the 70s had Wonder Woman depicted as having a sister, and her sister's name was Nubia. So the mother, Hippolyta, I think her name is, and I'm sure the viewers will correct me if I'm wrong. They're very knowledgeable about things. Hippolyta, in the narrative, Hippolyta picked rich soil up from one hand and formed Nubia with one hand, and picked a lighter soil up with her other hand and formed Diana, who we now know as Wonder Woman. And for some reason, they became estranged. Nubia went off to rule a floating island of men. So she was the one woman who ruled over men. And in the narrative, she says that she ruled with, I think, she ruled with peace and justice. So, you know, her feminine depiction of rulership and of authority was a peaceful one. It wasn't a warship one. Now, Diana ruled over an island of women, and she ruled in war. That was her kind of mantra. So when, as adults, when they came back together, Nubia met Diana, and Diana introduced herself as Wonder Woman, and Nubia told her, no, I'm the one true Wonder Woman. And I don't know if they resolved that, but Nubia was very clear that she was the one Wonder Woman. It wasn't Diana. And I was kind of looking to see if in the movie, you know, they would kind of bring that narrative to light a little bit more, because we're talking more, I think, publicly about race and social justice. So I was wondering if they would bring that theme of Nubia in. But what I find interesting about kind of the story and the narrative of Wonder Woman is that, you know, now we have more women comic writers, but men wrote most of the comic narratives, the early comic narratives, and it was mostly Jewish men. And they used kind of real life elements of history and of early civilizations to thread into these comic narratives. And so Diana, the Wonder Woman, she was depicted as an Amazonian woman who I think the definition of Amazonian is mixed race, right? Jews and indigenous people from South America. So that's why, kind of in my mind, I always thought that Wonder Woman was a woman of color, because historically she's supposed to be depicted as partially being of quote-unquote mixed race, while Nubia is this clearly definitive, dark-skinned, full-featured African woman. But Wonder Woman was originally written by a psychologist, right? And this psychologist used the feminine social movement as part of his inspiration. And he actually consulted with Margaret Singer a lot, who is an icon, you know, supposed to be a cultural icon for white feminism. And when we say feminism, for me, when I'm talking about feminism, I always mean white feminism, okay? To me, there's no other kind of no other kind of feminism, because I recognize it as an engineered movement for their own apparatus of supremacy and dominancy. And again, like you said, we take inspiration from anything. So even when things are meant to harm us, we try to take the good of it and run with it and use it as a form of motivation or inspiration. But when you have self-knowledge, when you know the history, when you do the research, you know, sometimes you need to think twice about what you take up on your own, as your own struggle. I don't look at feminism as a true problem. I look at it as a false problem for our community.
What makes you Love yourself. What makes you proud to wear the hair the way that you wear your hair? What makes you proud of your complexion? With all the things on television telling you that you are not beautiful, I want to know what makes a black woman in this country appreciate her beauty and proud to say that she's a beautiful black woman.
Again, Rich, I think for me, living in colonized societies, right? We all are exposed to kind of oppression and having to go through a process, hopefully, of decolonization and how we look at ourselves, whether it's the standard of beauty, the standard of intelligence, our general self-worth, because we get all these messages, we get all of these constraints around the identity that others impose upon us. For me, I've always found my value for, just intuitively, I've always wanted to be closer, more connected to my culture. And that, I think, in and of itself, it's not a superficial material instinct. It's really a spiritual instinct. It's really, your inner consciousness wanting to come out and connect with something real. It's your inner mind telling you that even if you see something, if you hear something a lot and it doesn't resonate for you, it must mean it's not true. So you have to run and seek the truth. And so I would look at images. I was born with my hair natural. And even though I feel like I came from a very conscious upbringing and family. Both of my parents were very conscious people, and we talked about our African history and ancient civilizations. And my dad would always kiss my nose and tell me he loved my nose, and I had a cute teddy bear nose. And I have a beautiful broad nose, and that's not the image that we get in what's acceptable. But I had a perm, and so I got a perm probably in grade school, and it was the thing to have. And I always hated it. I hated the process. I don't think I ever really loved the results. As I got older, I got more curious about how my real hair was, right? Sometimes I would see images of black women with natural hair, like the Fresh Prince, like Hillary, right, on the Fresh Prince. And I wondered, if I stopped perming my hair, would my hair look like that? And of course it wouldn't, because I had a different kind of grade of hair. But, I started to get more curious. So I decided just to stop perming my hair. And my mother, she had an afro. My aunts, they had afros, and they encouraged me to go for it. And in that process, it sounds like a lot of times when women talk about going back natural, and not really, it's a piece of not knowing about yourself, and also feeling inadequate, right? Because it's not just about the hair. It's like feeling comfortable with all your features, feeling comfortable with how you look, just feeling comfortable and secure in yourself. And so it's not just the material, superficial, surface process. It's an inner process. It's about, in your soul, getting comfortable with how you were made to be. Alice Walker, she says, freedom, we've heard about what Nina Simone thinks freedom is. Freedom is no fear, right? But Alice Walker says freedom is knowing who you are, accepting who you are, and loving who you are. And for me, that's freedom. And that's what inspires me every day, like freedom in every single kind of way. So my inspiration, I think, is freedom. Rich, like ultimate, optimal freedom.
Indeed. What is your take? And that's beautiful. It's great to see that your father raised you the way he did, and your mother. That's beautiful, and it's something that's inspiring to a lot of brothers and sisters. Two-parent household is something that we need in this country, and it's definitely in the black community. So. Big shout out to Ayanna's mother and father for doing their thing. I'm curious, what's your take on You know, some women might not be as bold as you. They may not have made that move to keep their hair natural. And in television, there's a Barbie doll movement. Whereas, you know, if you go on Instagram, pretty much every girl looks the same if you're on Instagram. They pose the same. There's a lot of plastic surgery happening in the black community, which was something that I remember in the 90s when I was young. I looked at that as a white thing, plastic surgery. Maybe because it was too expensive for the community at the time, I'm not sure. But I just didn't look at it like Michael Jackson was the big example of somebody who that had plastic surgery in the black community. But besides that, I wasn't really used to black people getting plastic surgery like that. So what's your take about, the ass implants, instead of losing weight the natural way, some girls get the liposuction and they're getting their lips bigger when their lips are already full size. The way that they're perming their hair, bleaching their skin. What's your whole take on this Barbie doll movement? Should we be judgmental? Should we tell them it's wrong? How would you approach these sisters out here?
Well, for one, I'm not with it. But it doesn't make me, I think it's a form of how we compromise and how we compensate for our feelings of inadequacy. And the thing about feeling inadequate is that it's a void, it's like a well that never really gets filled. It starts with one thing, and then once you adjust that, there's always another thing. So it's an empty well. And I think everybody has it, and they express it in different ways. I think, for women, because the standard of beauty has been so imposed within this idea of femininity and how a woman should look. And again, a part of this is a very European white problem that we have inherited because of colonization. I think spiritually, we have a lot of adequacies. And when you look at psychological studies, and psychology is a deep thing too, because it's based on a lot of experimental kind of racial ideologies and theories that are false. But when they do the studies, often with black young girls, in comparison to other ethnic groups, to white groups, to Asian groups, black girls often have higher self-esteem, higher physical self-esteem. And somewhere between girlship and teenagedom, adolescence, it gets kind of lost along the way. And I think it's a part of it is the heightened exposure to media. As you get older, you lose the purity of your innocence. You lose some of those intuitive things or not lose, but you get disconnected from it. And the thing about not fully addressing inadequacies that you may feel and disconnection that you may feel in a spiritual light that manifests itself in physical kind of superficial ways is that if you don't address it, right, if you don't take some kind of self-responsibility and do some self-inventory, those mental psychological inadequacies become inherent. So even when you don't mean to, you impose that on the next generation, okay? It comes through. If mommy or auntie got plastic surgery and then they have children that have the nose that they was trying to get rid of or have the features that they were trying to get rid of, and you're trying to teach your child how to feel good about that when you couldn't even feel good about that for yourself, it becomes a generational dilemma. And we see a lot of that. These generational dilemmas of inadequacy are not just physical things. It comes in financial forms. It comes in social status. It comes in, these ideas that you won't be taken seriously unless you go through a certain career path. And people pass down these inadequacies, these false myths to the next generation. So it's about really, kind of doing the spiritual work to solve that, to remedy that.
It's funny when you say black women had the highest self-esteem out of the other groups. I remember in the 90s, Chris Rock had a comedy special called Bring the Pain. Mm-hmm. And he was making a joke and he said, who has the highest I'm not saying it exactly how he said it, but he was making a joke and he said, who has the highest self-esteem out of everybody in the country? And the audience was like, he was like a fat black woman. He said, because on Friday night, she gonna put on a little skirt. She don't care how she look. She gonna go out there and she gonna have a good time. So he was
and it's true. Body consciousness is not culturally, it's not a thing for us. It's not like this body dysmorphia, this not being okay with the body, the shell that we came in. That is something that was imposed upon us. These ideas are impositions, okay? They interrupt our natural spirituality, and it's unfortunate. But I still, find that kind of still, it seems like black women, the image of the black woman, even with all of these messages that are imposed upon us, the image of the black woman still reigns supreme. And despite the messages that we get, it still seems that there is kind of a natural stream and natural desire for people of other cultures and other quote-unquote races to want to liken themselves to our image rather than the other way around. To a point where it's become a little bit we want bigger butts than the bigger butts we already have. We want bigger breasts than the bigger breasts that we already have. So it's become a really kind of odd psychological phenomenon.
So like I addressed previously, one of the problems that we have in our community is these single parent households. And especially for black men, it's usually the father that's missing in the household. And it's real hard growing up as a black man without a father because you're learning through experience. So I didn't have a father growing up at all. My father was killed before I was born. While my mother was pregnant with me in the womb, my father was killed, so I didn't have a father my whole life. And growing up as an adolescent, I would do things that, I seen the other males do. So the other males, a woman, a young sister would walk down the street, we like, psst, psst, we doing the psst, yo ma, sweetheart, that's what we did. So I remember as I got older, brothers and I was vending in Brooklyn. A brother came to my table one time and he was like, yo, these black women in New York, they effing nasty, man. They got an attitude. I said hi to her. She ain't say hi back. That's the problem with the black woman in America. I say, yo, bro, it's a hot summer day. She probably got hollered at 30 times within the last 4 hours, bro. She's tired of that. Like, just take it easy. Talk to the young brothers, older brothers and young brothers, because we need to hear from a sister. How do you feel when a brother approaches you on the street? He might say, psst. He might say, excuse me, miss. He might say, sweetheart. He might say, gorgeous. How does it make you feel as a woman when a brother approaches you on the street and tries to holler at you? Want to get your number or something? How does that make you feel?
How does it make me feel?
And is it something we need to stop doing?
I think for me, what's more compelling is what is the intent. I think across cultures, a part of the way that men engage with women is wanting to vie for their attention. The way in which you do it and the intent in which you come with makes the difference in the results that you get, and also makes a difference in the quality of what the interaction is. I think, we do need practice. It's healthy practice. I think, we don't want, listen, brothers, we don't want men to stop
let us know.
Yeah, we don't want you to stop engaging with us. We love you, okay? We love, I learned a long time ago, if I love men and I'm attracted to men, then I move and respond in such a way that sends the message that I love you all. So, if you get a certain response from a sister, it's not, at least for me, in my mind, it's not a rejection of our need and our desire to want to engage with you and want to connect with you. It's just the manner in which you're doing it. So I don't, and it's also a part of the objectification, I think you all learn things that you wouldn't want your sister or your mother to be exposed to, but yet, and you move with that integrity, that those are women that you respect. But when it comes to other women that are somebody else's mother or somebody else's daughter or somebody else's cousin, you engage with them in a different kind of way that doesn't yield as much integrity and respect. I find that in my and energy and vibration have a lot to do with the way that people engage with you.
Okay, good point.
I rarely get disrespected. I can't even remember the last time. I can't even push back in my mind. Men do approach me, but it's always calm and respectful. And, I'm might not be interested, or the circumstance might be odd in the way that they do it. But most times it is the way that they know to engage. And so the way that I know to respond is peaceful. It matches their energy. It matches their vibration. And they might not get the response that they were looking for from me, but they definitely leave feeling loved. They don't leave the interaction feeling disrespected or undervalued or dismissed or undermined, because vibration is very important. A piece of it is, I just want to finish with this, a piece of it is we love you. We love you so much. In our conversations, we rock with you, like always, like forever, with devotion. And I don't think any kind of engineered movement is ever really going to change that. I think we can kind of keep hearing and feed into the propaganda, but there's a lot of love out here between black men and black women. And I think that message needs to be put out more.
Do we go too hard, though? Because we'll follow you down 2 blocks. You know what I'm saying? Do we go too hard sometimes?
That again, I can only speak to my experience, and things like that rarely happen to me.
Okay.
And I think that might be an energetic type of thing. If you do that, someone might question your mental stability.
Right. It goes down in New York like that. They beast in New York.
Okay.
Moving on. Like I said, I've vended for many years on the streets in Brooklyn, and just growing up in New York my whole life and making a lot of observations. I've noticed when it comes to black women with natural hair, a lot of times when I see interracial relationships, it's usually, if it's a sister and a white male, it's usually a sister with natural hair. And it seems, it was always strange to me that brothers love brothers. A lot of brothers I knew love sisters with perms. And when I seen sisters with natural hair, they would be with white males. And I'm like, wow, is it because, do the white males appreciate natural hair more than the brothers do? Could you talk to me about that dynamic? Have you noticed that? I've heard other people say that as well. Is that something you've noticed before?
I think oftentimes in those relationships, so oftentimes, one thing I don't believe is that people just fall in love with who they fall in love with. I feel like who you're with, who you partner with, is a manifestation of your values. And with any any kind of interracial relationship, especially when a person of color, right, is partnered with a white person, whether it's a white man or a white woman, a black man being, we'll talk about quote unquote the black race, a black man being with a white woman or a black woman being with a white man. There is definitely some kind of power dynamic, and also a curiosity of exoticism. I mean, we even see it in our casual relationships. I can't tell you how many times, sometimes I'm just sitting on the train, Rich, or I'm just in a room, and I'm doing my own thing, and I feel eyes on me. And oftentimes, it's a white gaze. It's white eyes. It's
interesting.
It's a I pin it back to some kind of deep desire for possession, for wanting to encapsulate or be a part of something that they'll never have. And, it can feel like adoration and admiration. But I think, and I've never been in an interracial relationship, but from the books that I've read and kind of the commentary that I hear, especially from black women that are with white men, there's this curiosity and this interest around the difference, whether it's the skin, whether it's the hair, whether it's the food, whether it's the music. They want the cultural stuff, right? They want the quote-unquote cultural orientations. They don't really want to deal with the race stuff and the power dynamic and the dominant stuff. But they want, they're interested in the experience. And I think that's a piece of what it is. And of course, I can't speak directly to it because I haven't been in those relationships. I think I avoid relationships, any kind of relationships where there is some kind of severe power dynamic that I can't find balance in. But I think that's a piece of what that is. What do you think that is?
I think
the natural women with white men.
No, I think I would have to agree with you because I also noticed the brothers with dreads with the white woman. I also noticed that dynamic. So, it's a lot of curiosity, and I guess people just want the real thing. Like if they want a sister with a perm, they would just have a white woman. So they want, like you said, they want the authentic black woman or the authentic black man. So, yeah, so that's interesting. I'm sure that there'll be a lot of comments on that under this video.
Educate us.
Yeah. We live in a culture where a lot of people are into celebrity worship. A lot of celebrities are like, if a celebrity says something, then everybody's running and doing it. If Beyonce wears this, then all the girls are wearing this. If Jay-Z wears that, then all the dudes is wearing that sometimes. And like I said, I draw inspiration from some celebrities. I draw inspiration from Jay-Z and his business savvy, and LeBron and his greatness and his work ethic, and Mayweather and his work ethic, and what I see him do. As a woman, I want to ask you: are there any celebrities that you draw inspiration from? Like, there's a lot of you got the Beehive. The Beyonce is like the most popular entertainer in the world at this point, and she gets bashed a lot within the, if you want to call it, the conscious circle or the woke circle. But a lot of these young sisters out here, they love Beyonce. Like I said, she's the most popular figure out there. So what do you think about a sister like Beyonce and what she represents? Do you draw inspiration from a sister like that?
You asking me the Beyonce question. Do I draw inspiration from a sister like that? I draw inspiration from the dynamic of sisterhood and of being supportive in the different ways that I can. And I think, I find some of the messages that are put in her music, and some of the images, especially, the message around independent woman, and that, these messages of strong black woman and that narrative, I find that very problematic and a dilemma that I think, again, is not an idea that's engineered around us. But then I appreciate when she comes with the softer kind of narratives. What I find inspiration in is the idea of sisterhood. Giving pieces, even though she's very commercial, even though I do see a lot of white supremacist power dynamic and very strategic placement in how she joins with the quote-unquote black community and her and her husband, and how they disconnect at will in their own convenience. How they don't join in certain movements or messages or make certain public statements about different social issues that are going on, not using their power and their visibility in that kind of way. I do find that problematic. But I bow to any black woman that is dynamic, that expresses excellence in what it is that she does. We can use all of our powers for good, or for not so good. But I think she's definitely expresses excellence in her art form, in her work, a certain level of dedication. But I do take issue with, the constant messaging that she kind of put out in her music around the independent woman, that strong black woman narrative. Maxine Waters gave it to us again, that strong black woman narrative. And in support of her, we joined with her. But I do find those messages problematic because it sustains white female fragility, right? And it doesn't make space, it makes space for white women to be feminine, to express need, to express the need for care and for protection. And I think that's another reason why black men, some black men, gravitate towards white women, because they can feel an expression of more masculinity with them, because the consciousness, the messaging that they're given is that they are always in need of being taken care of. And so their expressive feminine state, which kind of the feminist movement is pushing against a little bit, but I don't think, because it's engineered, I don't think feminism will get but so far. I don't think it will ever shatter white female fragility and victimhood, and how they use it, even with the black men that they're attracting, right? They can be very divisive and dubious, and then when they're confronted or challenged, again, they buckle into the victimhood, they buckle into the damsel in distress, and we never have space to do that as black women. We never have. Our role has become so narrow. We can't express help. We are the help. We can't express support. We are the support. We're the supporting cast of everything in our own family systems, in our own community systems. And, that doesn't create space for self-care. And it becomes very problematic. So that's, that has been one thing that has bothered me with the Beyonce message. Her pushing the independent woman, kind of the strong black woman, kind of the I can do bad all by myself, kind of boy bye type of ideas, which I think is not healthy. It's not sustainable. It's not, it's another message of disconnection.
And she got a husband now after all of that. And the sisters that followed it ain't got one, huh?
At the end of the day.
Interesting, very interesting. In terms of we live in an age, like I said, there's a lot of change going on. Women are dressing more provocative than I have ever seen them dress. And a lot of brothers feel as though when we like this whole in street dynamic, a lot of brothers feel as though they should treat a woman based on the way she dresses. So if a woman wears a skirt, a short skirt, you know, her breast out, whatever makeup, they feel as though, you know, they could treat her a certain way and get away with it. And they'll say, well, you dress like a hoe, I'm going to treat you like a hoe. Don't come outside dressed like that if you don't want brothers to, you know, treat you like that. Talk to me about, you know, the way women are dressing these days. Are you for it, against it? And the way brothers are reacting to the way these women, you know, black and white women are dressing. I mean, is it justifiable, the way the brother's excuse of saying, you know, they dress like a hoe, I'm gonna treat you like a hoe?
Again, a lot of these ideologies have to do with having a colonized mind. And taking the spirituality out of our bodies. You know, we're very spiritual people across the board. In any corner of the world, African, indigenous people, Moorish people have brought spirituality across the world. And our bodies are divine. Being in very colonialized, imperialistic societies has brought a lot of shame, has brought a lot of over-sexualization, especially of the black female body, but of female bodies altogether, to the point where there's this severe lust factor. You know, if you're showing any part of your body, or if you have any kind of curves, or if you are expressing any kind of concentrated femininity, to the point of where in the connection, men are taught that they're not supposed to have responsibility or self-control over their emotional or physical response to a woman. And that's lack of spirituality.
Okay.
Lack of discipline, lack of self-control, lack of emotive control has to do with the disconnection in your own spirituality. And understanding that the woman is divine, that a woman's body is, you know, sex is about information and healing, and everything is sex. Conversation is sex. How we eat is sex. What we read is sex. What we look like, what we look at is sex. We could sexualize everything because everything is about creation. Everything can be about information and healing. But when you are spiritually disconnected, you know, one of the laws of Ma'at is not to abuse your sexuality. And when you're not spiritually connected, you will abuse and misuse all divine things. So, you know, a part of it is about male self-responsibility and self-knowledge and getting closer to their own spirituality. The other part is about female self-responsibility and self-knowledge and getting back to her spirituality, understanding her intent of why she is showing, or why she is exposing, or why she is sharing that piece of herself to the world and the message she's trying to send, knowing that we are living in a world where a lot of people are spiritually uncentered. So you're going to get certain vibrations, you're going to get certain energies based on what you do or what you do not do. And that has to do with self-knowledge.
Indeed. Growing up, how did it feel Not when you know, we grew up in Western culture. When we talk about God and we talk about, most of us grew up under Christianity, Jesus, there was always a male figure, and I believe everybody should see divinity in their own image. So not only was, you know, these figures white, but they were also all males. How did that affect you growing up as a young woman, just seeing divinity always in the figure of a male? And I'm assuming, you know, unless you grew up, you know, Kemetic or something like that, but I'm assuming, you know, just in general, everybody grew up under this Christianity banner, or we all seen male images when it came to divinity. So how did that affect you growing up?
I think, you know, subconsciously and in my subconscious state, it's probably and still continues to affect me in different kinds of ways, because it's an imbalance of creating an inadequacy that women can't be powerful, can only be divine with limitation, or in certain sectors can only be powerful or supreme in certain spaces or certain sectors, or maybe not even at all. And again, that's a disconnection to our own self-knowledge, because throughout ancient civilization, we've come from very egalitarian, very equal states. Our civilizations always had equality and balance when it came to understanding that both men and women have divinity and power within ourselves. You know, throughout history, we have an image here, and I don't know who quite she might be. I think she kind of looks like me. I told Brother Rich that. But we've had the Queen Nzingas. We've had the Queen Ya from Ghana. We've had different images of powerful women, different images of kind of divine female superior images. And when you come into these colonized societies, you see all males. And that is first about white male dominance and white supremacy. And I think it took me getting older to understand that that's what that's about. That creates a mental imbalance, a psychological imbalance around what women think we can do, or what we're capable of, or the spaces that we should hold, or how we should even be received by men. You know, that we're not meant to be worshipped and be sacred. Be sacred. Women are sacred. We've always been sacred in our cultures. So I think, you know, and it's kind of still impactful, and I have to check myself sometimes around not carrying inner misogyny, because I think oftentimes women, because we see all of these images, and women intuitively, we are devoted to what we see, what we hear. We can be more misogynistic than men because of the messages that we're carrying around in our subconscious.
Explain that a little. How can you be more misogynistic than a man?
Well, meaning that we can be oppressive to ourselves, because we're creators. We're the divine. We are creating the very thing that is oppressing us. We make men. The last time I checked, black women make men. We make all men. All men come from us. We make black men. And if society doesn't recognize, if we don't recognize that we are, because of the messages that we receive, that we are raising our men not to value us, but to devalue us, to think that we are not supreme, that we are not sacred, because they're not seeing, you know, false images of women in those positions, then that means that we're becoming more misogynistic than the very men that we're creating. We're oppressing ourselves. We're not teaching them that we're sacred and that we're divine and we're to be respected. Not below, not behind, but right next to, maybe even often in front of.
What in terms of, like I mentioned Beyonce earlier, and in terms of, you know, you mentioned the independent woman thing, and I guess that came out of a state where a lot of you know, we heard that term a lot in the black community. What is that? And I guess that came out of you know, I don't have a man, so, you know, I gotta, you know, it's a defense mechanism. I gotta tell myself that I don't need a man because I don't have a man. So, you know, you tell yourself you don't need one, so you won't be depressed and down. What would you say? There's a lot of women that they may not have a mate, and there could be various reasons. You know, there could be a high incarceration rate with black males in this country. Women can outnumber black males in this country. There could be a lot of reasons for a lot of sisters who don't have a mate, and because of that, they don't feel complete. They feel lonely. What advice would you give to those women who don't have a mate, but they don't want to, you know, act like they're independent women and they don't need a man? They just don't have a man, but they wish they had a man. What advice, talk to these sisters out here, what would you say to them?
Sisters that want a man but don't have a man?
Yeah, it just seems like they can't, you know, there's no good brothers out there.
Well, I mean, again, I would say that there are good brothers out here. I think it's very important to, and because a lot of role dynamics are engineered, I oftentimes worry that black men feel rejected or unneeded, and I think that's something that has been very engineered. It research shows, history shows that before the 60s and like the 50s, that 4 out of 5 black homes had 2 parents in them, that we were highly partnered. And once the welfare state started, once the crack era began, it kind of dismantled and sterilized black relationships, and that's something that's engineered. So I think, who was the brother? Was it Dick Gregory? I think Dick Gregory said, did he have a lot of children? Do you know, Brother?
I'm not sure. He has probably about 5, I think. I'm not sure. I forget. He told me a bunch of times. I'm sorry, Dick Gregory, but I forgot.
I'm not sure who it was, and I'm sure the audience will give knowledge. But they had this big issue in Ebony, like in the 70s, and the brother said that the most radical thing that black men and black women can do together is have families and have babies and continue to create, and to push against these kind of systems and dynamics that are very engineered. The disconnection, women not connecting with their femininity. A piece of what I told you before, you know, if you like and you love men, then you engage with men as though you love them. And it doesn't mean that, you know, you don't have boundaries and you don't have acceptable ways in which you want them to engage with you. But when a man says hi, you smile and you say hi back and you show love. You know, if they ask you a question and it's respectful, you respond. So a piece of it, I think, is just an internal vibrational thing. I think it's getting reconnected with what it is that you really want. You know, I think in all things, if we really want it, if we really think that we're worthy of having it, if we lift our energetic and vibrational state, it comes to you. And it might not come to you in the fantasized package that you've created in your mind, ladies, okay? Because a part of the value that we bring to all relationships, because we are the creators and we keep the pace, you know, everything revolves around us. Things don't turn unless we turn. We control the emotional state, so we elevate men. We always have. we add worth and value to the quality of their thinking, to who they think they can be, to what they think they can do. You know, it's about showing love to each other. So, you know, sis, don't be down if you are not partnered with someone. It's space for you to work on yourself. It's space for you to figure out, you know, what are the messages, what's the energy that I'm sending out, to kind of do some self-inventory. If you say that you love men, are you showing love? Men, if you say that you love women, are you showing love? Do you really know how to interact with women? When you go out to spaces and you're with your boys, is that the kind of dynamic that attracts women? Are you, you know, introducing yourselves? Are you smiling? Are you kind of yielding and making yourself approachable? You know, we have to think about how we interact. We have to kind of recodify how we interact. We've been given all of these ways that we interact that aren't really organic to us. You know, we need to recodify the way that we react. If a man is expressing interest, you know, and he's doing it in a respectful way, be responsive. Just because it's not the package that you fantasized in your head, you know, be approachable, be pleasable. Men, check yourself, be a gentleman. That's my advice.
You know, do you think we're too picky as a race in terms of picking our mate, our men too? Okay. Okay.
We live in a lot of fantasies. This is the, you know, again, a part of the colonization gives us these ideas or these messages, these dreams, right? Like, and it's great. I mean, you know, some people might think it's great to dream because dreams become reality. But you want your reality to be your reality. And I think a lot of times we get stuck in the fantasy of a thing or what we think we should be, and we don't deal in reality, you know. And we have all of these lists of things that have nothing to do with real values that really build and sustain relationships, you know. It doesn't make your relationship more sustainable if your man is 6'3". Or if he's 5'3", you know, that's not what's going to it doesn't make your relationship more sustainable if he's making 6 figures or he's making 5 figures. Because someone that's making 6 figures can easily lose all that and be making no figures. And someone that's making 5 figures can elevate himself, you know, if he has the right energy and the right inspiration, and be making more. So, yeah, we get... And it's not, you know, too picky about the wrong things. And it's not being clear. And it's not being clear on ourself and our own understanding. And having cultural practices that mean something. Yeah, too picky about nothing, I think. Do you think men are too picky? I hardly have these conversations with brothers.
Sometimes, you know, it depends. It depends sometimes, man. Sometimes brothers, you know, it depends on our motive. Sometimes we just in it, you know, to have some sex, so we don't be that picky. But, you know, then sometimes we are too picky, so it all depends.
But when it comes to relationships, like getting in relationships, do you think men are picky?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think men are. No, I don't. I'm thinking about my friends, and nah, I don't. From the brothers I know, nah.
Does it feel like women are too picky?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, there's this meme that goes around, and it says the things men want. And it had like a list of 5 things. It said peace, happiness, food, and then it said the things women want, and it was like 100 things on the list. And it's this meme that they got going around just to show the difference between men and women. It's just a funny meme. But yeah, I do think women are a little more picky than men are. Y'all notice a lot more things than men notice. Being intuitive, y'all pick up on a lot more things than we do. So yeah. Interesting conversation. It definitely something I would want to talk about more in a panel discussion, so we could get this thing right. We could start having, because like I said, the most important thing I feel as though, just to wrap up the interview, close it out, is getting back to these households where there's two parents at home. And you talked about the what welfare did when welfare came around, and what the crack epidemic did. And me and Red and Blue, we talk about that a lot, and how it sort of separated the home. So my goal is definitely to, and I don't have children yet, but my goal is definitely to be at home with my child, to have that type of household. And I be Superman, and my girl could be Wonder Woman. You know what I'm saying? And our children could look up to us as superheroes. So to close it out, Ayanna, give some advice, and you gave advice the whole interview, but just summarize it one last time for the sisters about how they can be Wonder Woman in their lives on an everyday basis. Well, should they get up a certain time? Should they eat a certain way? Should they talk a certain way? Should they dress a certain way? How can the sisters out here, personify Wonder Woman on a day-to-day basis?
So 3 things, and I'll keep it very simple. Because too many things become overwhelming. And I think, life is more simple than we make it oftentimes. I think self-knowledge is key. Self-knowledge, knowing about yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you come from, getting in tune with your deeper desires, with your deeper worth. I think that's key. So self-knowledge is important. Self-responsibility. A lot of things are engineered, and we kind of scapegoat ourselves into it. A lot of things are imposed on us, that we didn't even agree to, ideas that don't come authentically to us just as a community. So having self-responsibility around the ideas that you carry in your mind, just when it comes to anything, having real clear self-responsibility, I think, is important. And spirituality, I think, is key to being superior at anything. If you are disconnected to your divine self, if you are disconnected to your inner powers, if you don't have inner peace, I think, you will constantly be having dilemmas in all areas of your life. And I probably should have said that first, working on spirituality. And luckily, these 3 things that I'm saying, the self-knowledge, the self-responsibility, the spirituality, I think go for men and women. Those are 3 things that if you want to become a superior woman, if you want to become a superior man, those are 3 areas that you constantly have to keep working on and focusing on. So those are the 3 keys.
Definitely, man. I know the people are going to enjoy this interview. And give them some contact information. Let them know how they could reach out to you. Some sisters may want some advice.
Oh, okay.
So, let them know how they could get in touch with you.
Well, right now, a couple of you added me on Instagram. I appreciate that. So if you want to connect with me, you can add me on Instagram. My handle is Lucille Clifton, one of my favorite poets. Lucille, Lucille, Clifton, Clifton on Instagram.
So just at you on Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lucille Clifton.
That's right.
Okay, and I'll put it under the video. Cool. Once again, I want to thank you for coming on the video. I appreciate your time. Wonder Woman right here. We out, family. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, family. This brother Rich from UGR, urging all my viewers and subscribers to help support the channel by donating just $1 to the UGR PayPal account. We appreciate the viewership and support, and we understand the power of $1.
If you benefit in any way, shape, or form, we ask that you donate $1, whether it be monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, or yearly, so that we can build our brand to compete with the NBCs, the MTVs, and the Foxes of the world. I figured since Kanye could ask Mark Zuckerberg for $1 billion, I could ask my subscribers to donate $1 so I could make the best possible content possible. The main objective of this channel is to inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. So hopefully throughout the
I went from living like monks, living out back of the trunk, to pockets of fat with the mumps, pockets of fat like the clubs. Now I am living like Trump. Now I am living like Trump. Mimosas and mimosas, mimosas and mimosas, mimosas and mimosas, the Morris Costa Nostra. Pulling up in Testarossa, we charging the debt, discharging the debt, discharging the debt, we charging the jet. Swipers on deck, ciphers on deck, ciphers on deck, wipers on deck, wipers on deck. My life is on check, my life is on check, my life is on tubes, my life is a Jew, my life is on you. My wife is on 2, my wife is on 2. I'm going for 3, you know it is me. Bread is the pillar, the jet is my pillar, the